There's a very common belief in our culture that success should solve loneliness. The idea is that once life's going well, once your career is stable, your finances are under control, and you've achieved a few meaningful things, then naturally you'll feel fulfilled and along with that, connected. But psychological research and social trends are showing something very different. There are so many people out there who appear successful on the outside, but are currently experiencing a deep sense of disconnection in their lives, which raises an interesting question. If success doesn't cure loneliness, why do so many of us expect it to? Well, one reason is that success can make loneliness and a disconnection harder to notice. When life is busy and productive, it's very easy to stay distracted. Work fills the day. Goals provide a sense of forward movement, and achievements reinforce the idea that things are going well. And from the outside, this often looks like a full and satisfying life. But productivity and connection are not the same thing. Being respected is not the same as being known, and being admired is not the same as feeling understood. So, someone can be doing very well professionally while still lacking the kinds of relationships where they feel safe being fully themselves. Building a career, raising a family, or pursuing ambitious goals often requires time, energy, and focus. During those years, friendships can gradually become less central. People move cities, schedules become complicated, and social interactions become shorter and more practical. And over time, emotional conversations may become less frequent. Not because anyone intends for that to happen, but because life becomes structured around responsibility and productivity. And slowly, without much awareness, many people find that they have fewer relationships where deeper conversations feel natural. What researchers have noticed is that many adults only become aware of this disconnection later, often when life becomes a little quieter, perhaps a demanding stage of work passes, or when children become more independent, or maybe life simply starts slowing down. And in that quieter space, people sometimes realize that although their lives are full in many ways, something's still missing. They may have acquaintances, professional networks, even social interactions, but very few people who truly understand their internal world. That moment of realization can feel quite surprising, especially for people who assumed success would automatically bring a sense of fulfillment. Part of the reason this happens is cultural. Modern societies place strong emphasis on independence, productivity, and personal achievement. And those are valuable qualities, but they don't necessarily build emotional closeness. Connection tends to develop through time, through openness, shared experiences, and vulnerability. And those things often require different kind of attention than achievement does. So it is possible for someone to build a very successful life in practical terms while still feeling relationally undernourished. Now, at this point, a lot of people start assuming the solution is obvious. Just socialize more, join a club, put yourself out there. But if you've experienced chronic loneliness, especially while functioning well in the rest of your life, you'll know it's rarely that simple, because the real issue usually isn't a lack of people, it's a lack of meaningful psychological connection. And if loneliness has been present for long enough, it can quietly change the way you relate to other people, the way you trust, and even the way your nervous system responds to closeness. Loneliness can increase the risk of early mortality by almost 26%, which places it in the same category as major physical health risks. There's been research that has compared the impact of long-term social disconnection to the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Because loneliness activates the body's stress systems, the nervous system becomes vigilant and inflammation levels increase. Hormonal stress pathways, they stay active for longer than they should. And over time, this can contribute to very real physical illnesses. Loneliness has been linked to heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, and even dementia. People experiencing social isolation have a 29% higher risk of coronary heart disease and a 32% higher risk of stroke. The body actually registers it as a form of long-term stress. According to global health estimates, loneliness and social isolation are linked to approximately 871,000 deaths every year. Now that equates to roughly 100 deaths every single hour, which means loneliness is not just a personal issue, it's a public health issue. Now, here's where high functioning professionals often get caught in a very specific trap. Their life works functionally. They're competent, they're productive, they're respected, but their emotional world may be almost completely unsupported. And because they're capable, people assume they're doing fine. So the loneliness goes unnoticed, it goes unspoken, and sometimes even unrecognized by the person themselves. They might just describe it as, I feel strangely empty. I'm tired even when nothing is wrong. I keep myself busy, but something still feels like it's missing. And because everything on the outside is working, the problem can quietly continue for years. That's why unresolved loneliness can become so dangerous. Not because it suddenly explodes into a crisis, but because it slowly erodes well-being over time, physically and emotionally and psychologically. The difficult question many high-functioning people eventually encounter is this: how can a life that looks so successful still feel so disconnected? And perhaps an even more important question is, well, if loneliness can quietly shape the mind, the body, and even long-term health, what actually helps someone reconnect again? Well, the encouraging part is that connection is something that can be developed intentionally at any stage in your life. It doesn't depend on success, status, or achievement. It grows through conversation, curiosity about other people, and a willingness to let relationships move beyond the surface. So if success hasn't brought the sense of connection you expected, it doesn't mean anything is wrong. It may simply mean that connection requires a different kind of investment, one that many of us were never really taught how to prioritize.